Hi, everybody. I'm Blake Cabot. I am the owner of facepaint.com, and today we have the fabulous Juliet Eve from all the way from the UK, and we're going to be doing monster designs. And that, what you see on your right, is, in fact, a monster design. So I appreciate you guys coming. Juliet is fantastic. You're in for a real treat. She has her own courses and stuff like that that you guys should definitely take. And so, with that said, Juliet, take it away.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Great. Lovely to see you all. Well, I can't see any of you, but hey, it's lovely to be here. And thank you, Blake, for inviting me on again. Those of you who may not know, my name is Juliet Eve, and yes, I live in the UK. I've been teaching for about 20 years with the Facade Academy.
Mhm.
And then just after COVID, I started up the FAM Club, some of you may have heard of. So FAM stands for Facade Academy Members Club. So it's a subscription. It's not very expensive. And I teach, well, there is a live class, and it's live, not recorded. There's a live class every week with either me or a guest instructor from all over the world. Yeah, so that's what we do. There's lots more to it. If you want to know any more, then please do, stick something in the comments or
Absolutely.
message me. I can get back to you. Yeah. Right. So today I thought we'd cover monsters. Now, monsters are, it's a generic term, if you like.
Mhm.
Um, you're just going to put that on
I'm gonna put
highlight
it up.
for me.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, fantastic. That's brilliant. Great. So I call it monsters because it's a generic term. So really, it's anything, any child that wants to look a bit fierce or a bit scary. This could be a dinosaur or any kind of monster or sometimes a superhero.
Mhm.
Um, but the secret is what I call the MMMs. So the major monster marks, right? Just remember that MMM, major monster marks. And once you've
Ah.
cracked those, you can apply it to any face you like, any dinosaur, any dragon, um, all that kind of stuff. Anytime a child, an adult, whatever, wants to look a bit fierce. A lot of this is to do with sort of theatrical makeup, and a lot of it uses this sort of aging lines, which doesn't sound very nice, does it? But hey, I can say that because I'm old.
Yes, that's true.
Um,
Old people are, in
yes,
fact, monsters. They've done studies.
entirely, yes. Now, obviously, I painted this on a board, so it doesn't blend very well, but um, it will. When you're on the skin, it's much easier, obviously. So the major monster marks. So there's three main things to consider. One is the eye area, secondly, the nose and the mouth. And then obviously the fourth area is the skin. So it's whatever you want to do with the skin. I often use stencils. And because these are perhaps more often requested by boys, I find that a light stencil is quick and very effective, and you get the effect, and everyone is incredibly impressed. It doesn't have to be a great detailed stencil; it's just a
Uh-huh.
light one. So I've painted this. I will paint another one shortly to show you how it's all about. But I thought I'd point out the main, as I say, the major monster marks first of all. So looking at eyes,
Mhm.
um, this above the eye here is the muscle. If you frown, okay, I'd like you personally, if you're watching, to frown and feel that muscle that pushes forward here, right? And that's what gives it the sort of fierce frowning look. Then the other one is the line that comes up, and it's the highest point of the brow. Um, I'll just show another face which hasn't got any. So if this was an ordinary face, so this part here,
Mhm.
again, if you raise your eyebrows, maybe you're even able to raise just one eyebrow, Jack Nicholson style.
Mhm.
When I teach, I always mention that. So it's lifting that muscle. And then you form a crease above it. Okay, so that's basically what this is. This is also the eyebrow, so you can add hair if you want, bushy eyebrows or something. If you're doing the Hulk, same principle. I use this for the Hulk as well. Same ideas without scales, obviously. So that above the eye, and then another crease, and you can actually take another crease and accentuate it even more. So you're trying
Thanks,
to
Kim.
accentuate that lift of the brow and this muscle that pushes forward for the frown. Then you can add bags under the eyes. So thin, thick, thin. You'll see all these lines. So important to concentrate, to think about the thin, thick, thin, whatever you do. So I do and these lines, again, for the sake of this demonstration, these are all very thick. They're, well, too thick, really. But it's just so you can see it clearly. But this should be, it's a crease. So, I mean, if you have a look at creases on my hand here, you'll see they're darker in here. So that's where the thick line is. And then as they get, out towards the smooth skin, it gets finer and finer. So we're trying to always end on a really super fine line. All right. And that's where this, the TTT, the thin, thick, thin line comes into its own. So always finish off with a thin line where the crease sort of stops. The other thing I've done here is make the eye socket nearer the center very dark. And that makes it look more fierce. So you darken the inner socket of the eye. And again, I always do this with sponging. I can sponge and make one of these faces in, 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how much detail I add. But seriously, it's a very quick thing to do once you've cracked it. So above the eye and shading in the eye socket, and the bags under the eyes, and the crow's feet, as we call them sometimes, the creases that are formed from the outer corner of the eyes and also underneath the eye as well.
Kim says that was a great way to demonstrate that crease.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. What else have we got? So that's the main thing about the eye. Oh, yes. And then the bridge of the nose. Again, if you wrinkle up your nose, and I do this with the children actually sometimes, I tell them to wrinkle up their nose and you get these lovely creases across the bridge of the nose. And sometimes they come right down onto the, near the tip of the nose quite often. So it's important to make these creases as well. And that, again, just sort of gives it even fiercer look about it. So that's the eye area. And obviously you can, with a monster, it doesn't matter if they're not the same. Always bear that in mind. This is a monster. It can be totally asymmetrical. It's better. Then we come onto the nose. Now with noses, you can change the shape of the nose with your shading and also with the nostril shape and size. So for instance, I could, let's just get getting a bit of black. So I'll just show you how you can on this one. So I could just make the nostril a little bit bigger like that. Okay. Or I could make it really big like that and take it outside of the nose itself. Right. So if you make the hole, the nostril, then you've got to make the crease, the flare of the nose around it. So you're recreating the flare. And this part here, the skin around the nostril, that's got to have the highlight. So that's got to be the lighter color because that is coming forward, protruding forward, if you like. Some people, they'll just put like a nostril way over there. not even attached to the nose, if you like. Let me just wipe one of these out. So, and then you can literally just do something like that. I mean, I do that sometimes on sort of gorillas and monkeys. And again, if you make sure you sponge over the nose and accentuate the flare of the nostril, as I call it, that's what you know the audience, the viewer, will see. Okay, but the quickest way really is just to extend from the human's nostril. So I would take it literally from there to about there. And that is sufficient. Just make that bit black. Okay, and then just accentuate that bit more. So that's the quickest way, but you could take that up a little bit further like that, make it really big. So, and so on. You know, you could, if you're doing, say, a dragon, you can make a kind of long sort of slit like that for a nostril. And then again, the flare of the nostril around it would have to come sort of up like this.
Cecilia, thanks you for sharing. It makes so much sense.
Good, good. Thank you. So yeah, so you can change that as you wish, but you know, you can, yeah, you can change them how you like. Make that nostril shape whatever you want. Okay, so now the crease. Let's find another realistic one.
Mhm.
On children there isn't much, but on adults there is more. There's that crease which I always call the smile line, and it comes from sort of the top of the flare of the nostril and then comes downwards, yeah, to the corner of the mouth roughly. I always call it the smile line. And when you're painting it, you can shift that anywhere you like. So you can move it over, and this is all done with your shading and highlights. So for instance, on this one, I could have taken that smile line. Her natural one is sort of somewhere around there, but this one I would take from there. You know, and then you've got to shade this bit in here. Just, as you know, it's really difficult shading on boards, but that's where the shading would go. Yeah. And the highlight would be over the top of this. All right. So you have to, you know, you can recreate the shape of the face. You know, you're distorting different elements of this face. Then you come to the mouth, and there's so many different kinds of mouths you can do. You know, if you look at the Hulk, for instance, I mean, I've just done a very simple one here, but if I just get rid of that, and then I can just show you another way. So if I was doing Hulk, again, I would put my base down first. Lost my black, there it is. And then, you know, it's sort of, it's that kind of shape, isn't it? Yeah. And you can just do a couple of lines in, or you can do these sort of things. And again, make it very quick. So that's one sort. But remember, because his mouth has been sort of stretched open, always remember to put the creases that come around it like that and that and here. And there would be something there. Yeah, you can even add a little bit more, another one on that. And that's how it makes it look more realistic. So try and always remember to do those creases. And I would have probably just painted that whole area in white, and then add the teeth afterwards. So that's kind of Hulk teeth. Or you can just do, just one side. So which I quite often do. So if I just wipe that bit out. And then you've got to make sure that that part attaches onto their natural lip. So something like that. Yeah. And again, you can make that any shape you like. Okay, move back to this. Now, if you've got teeth protruding, then it's quite fun to make the lip kind of, so the tooth there is pushing that lip up. So I would often give that a little crease there and another crease here. And again, it sort of lifts it up a little bit. Yeah. So remember those little creases where the skin has been stretched. Okay, so I'll paint one now. And but the thing to notice on this is I've just used two colors. And you know, if the child says they want to be a monster, you just ask what color monster. It's a bit like when I do dragons, you know, you're going to be a red dragon, or a, you know, if you want to be a pink monster, that's fine, or a blue one, or a purple one, or whatever color they like. It doesn't matter. Again, monsters can be anything. The sort of dirtier the colors, the better. But then you can do you can do a rainbow monster if you like. It really doesn't matter. You can do what you like. And it, you know, it's no slower. You know, people say, "Oh, I just have one thing on my board." Well, for a start, I don't have a board, as a lot of you will know. But secondly, I always change things up all the time because it's more interesting for me, and also it pleases more children if you can change it up. So in this one, say the child said, I want to be a green monster. I'll say, okay, so I've now got to have a light tone and a dark tone. That's what's important with all these monsters, to create the light and shade and the shadows and the hollow cheeks and everything else. So you've got to choose, you can either have a dark green and a light green, or I could use green as my lighter color, and then maybe have blue, which is the next color along on the color wheel, and the blue could be the hollows and the shadowing and the deep sockets and everything. So, or in this one, I chose the yellow to be my light color and then green as the dark color. And I always like to have several greens in my kit. I've always got a standard sort of mid green, and then a light one and a very, very dark one. So you can you can load your sponge with two colors and then just have a darker bit on the edge as well. Right. So, oh yeah, and then I've got several stencils that I use. There's another one which I can't seem to find, but anyway, this one it's more like a giraffe one really, but it's easier, isn't it? But it's you know, it's scaly, so you want some sort of scales. This is a BAM, what's that, 2003. We've also got a pop stencils. I quite like this because there's sort of smaller scales on the outside and bigger in the center. That's what I actually used on this one. And then the classic snaky one. Again, I often use that for my monsters. That's 1005. Okay, so those are three I commonly use. But again, you know, you can use anything you like. I've got a fishy scale one here. You can have a fishy monster, or you can have it with bubbles, or anything you like. Yeah? Monsters can be anything. The child's imagination, off you go.
There you go.
So say they wanted to be a red monster. So I could use red as, say, the dark color, and then I could either go with yellow as my light color, so those would be the two, and then blend. Or I could go with red and, say, brown. So that would be the darker one, or even red and some purple. I've got Plum Fairy, actually. It's one of my favorites. That's a chameleon. So, that would be the dark and that would be the brighter color. So as long as you've got a light and a dark color and they are harmonious, so they happily blend, that's what you want. Okay, so let's paint on this young girl.
Mhm.
Let's get rid of the nose bit. And what color should we do? Let's do a red one. And you can use one strokes as well if you want. But I'm just going to show you a simple one here. So red, let's go with red and yellow. And then I'll probably add, I've got a lovely kind of dark maroony plum color. So, I often add that onto the back of my sponge as well. Right, so let's get I know in the States you can't get these, can you? These are my Tesco sponges, or our supermarket baby sponges, they're
Yeah,
called.
exactly.
Yeah, I wish you could get you need to get them, Blake.
Tesco is just not going to return my call. I dream the
Really?
dream. One day they will. One
Yeah,
day.
yeah, I hope so. So I'll do yellow and red. So I don't use a spray bottle very
Oh,
much,
where do
but
you
I
get
do.
those practice faces? We have a lot of them
Well,
on face
these
paint.
ones are these are Sally Ann Lynch.
We do have those.
Yeah, they're fantastic. They've got a really good surface. I love using them. So I'll put a few drops in my yellow and a few drops in the red. I spray my sponge if I'm doing one strokes, but generally I prefer to put a few drops on because you can control. So at one end of the sponge, I'll put my yellow, and the other end, I'll put my red. And this is what speeds things up. Load it up right at the same time. Because if you do it afterwards, then the first color will have dried. So load them up at the same time. And now what I'm going to do is the bits of the face that protrude, that stick out, I do in the light colors. So bridge of the nose, top of the cheek, the main part of the forehead up high up there. The brow, do you remember I was saying that this muscle that pushes down here? So that will be a light color. The chin will be a light color. Quite often, it depends what I'm doing with the mouse, but across there. And then the dark colors are going to be in the socket, the hollow of the cheek, under the cheekbone, sometimes the side of the nose, depending on what shape I'm going to create. And you can see, there is shading here already. So there'll be above the eyebrow, which is going to lift. I'll do some dark here, and also when you do a skull, the temple area, that will get the dark treatment as well. Right, I've been talking so much, it's probably dried now. So now it's quite wet. So there we are. We'll take that up there and that up there. And again, you don't go fast. This is all rough. It doesn't matter. I can start shading here. I can start blending, I mean. So I can put some red there, blend that in. With monsters, it doesn't matter. Take the red there. And this is, the eye sockets, make them dark. Lift that up, starting to lift the eyebrow. Then I want some yellow on the cheek here. Again, I don't worry if it's picked up other colors. As I say, this is a monster. And then we want to shade under the cheekbones. Let's blend this through a bit. It's a good thing about these sponges, so you can just blend as you go. And there we go. We could maybe put a bit of dark around nearer where I'm going to put the nostrils. There. What sort of mouth shall I do? I'll do just one side. So as I'm going to do one side, sometimes what I do at this stage is get a bit of, white. And I'll just make the rough shape, very rough. Just something like that. So that's where their mouth is going to be. So we got, let's have some dark around there. Some light on the chin. So as I say, it's just imagining where the shadow would be. So that's, the main base. Now,
Right.
on top of this red, just along this edge here, I'm going to swipe it through some, it could be brown, it could be black. Let's do a little bit of brown, and then quite often I do it in 2 stages, again, depending on time and the cues. So I'm just going to put brown along the edge here. And I choose my darkest brown I've got. If it's not dark enough, then sometimes I just pull it through some black. Where's my black? There we go. So just the tip, just the very, very edge there. So now I can do the socket to make it that even darker. Not too wet. It's got to be quite dry so that it's more subtle and it's easier to blend. And maybe dark under the eyes as well. It's starting to look pretty ill, isn't she? Do some more shading under the cheekbones. Temples. I have to say that, I've been painting, 30 odd years or 33 years or something now. And originally I was self-taught, but then I think probably the most influential teacher I have ever learnt with was Nick Wolfe, Nick and Brian at the time. And they taught me a lot of this theory. So I
Yeah,
do have to credit them.
I would.
Yes. Right, now I'm going to put the stenciling on. So again, I've got this same sponge and find some black, but you could use another color. You could use green. Sometimes I use stipple sponges to make a bit of texture on the skin. Where are we? Here we are. Or you can use, what have I got? This is an old sort of art sponge. And that gives a nice texture as well. So you can just do that instead if you haven't got stencils handy. So for instance, if I just get my stipple sponge, wipe it in the black. The stipple I use normally for sort of beards and things. It's already splattered a bit. So I might just sort of add a bit of texture here and there, just because I can. It's what you can do what you like with monsters. It's fun. And then I'll get let's use this one. And then have a little bit. I'm going to put I usually use the stenciling on the part of the face that sticks out, right? Because the dark wants to disappear and go backwards, recede, but the yellow you want to stick out. So that is where you would see the scaly bit. Yeah, and then we're going to do it coming up here. and across here. I love doing monsters because you can just do what you like, and the children are just so thrilled. And it also adds a bit of roundness. We just need a bit of dark in here. So that just changes a bit of shape there, just by shading a little bit there. So that makes that deeper. What else? Let's have a bit on the chin. And maybe a bit down the nose. There we go, sort of a snaky effect, isn't it? Make sure there's plenty of dark under the eyes. Okay, so now we go in with our MMMs, our major monster marks. So I can... Now, the brush I'm using at the moment, these are my Desert Island, well, this is the Juliet Eve collection, and Blake has them, I know, in his shop.
Yep.
In England, you can either go directly to me at Facade Academy, or Tumini have them as well. So I've got a set of 8. So there's a flat square end, there's an angle, there's a petal brush. Should just open them up really, shouldn't I? You'll be able to see them. There we go. Let's get these out. It's just when I developed these, curated them really, with Rosemary and Co. as a UK thing. You know, they are made so beautifully. They're wonderful. So the flat angle is just, it's got a sharp edge, a really good chisel edge. So that's lovely. Same goes with the flat square, and you'll see the bristles themselves are square rather than very long. But I know everyone's different, but it's a very good all-rounder. Then we've got a petal brush. I call it a blossom. Again, a lovely point to it, so you can make beautiful petals with that. The Desert Island, which is the one I'm using, it's super pointy, really, really pointy. You can do such fine lines that I hardly ever use a liner because this is so good. It's called Desert Island because if I was left on a desert island all by myself and I was only allowed one brush, this would be it. And this is the number 4 Desert Island. Then there's a dot comma. Okay, so that does the most beautiful dots. It's not very pointy. I know it looks it here, but once it's, you know, out and got water and paint in it, it makes the most perfect dots, and it does comma strokes. And then a dagger. You can do 100 whiskers without having to reload. And a liner, because who doesn't love a liner occasionally? Particularly Erica. Erica Welsh in the States. She, sorry, in UK. She is the best at working with a liner. Anyway, so I'm just going to show you that too, because it's what I use exclusively now. I really do, because it just does everything. And the fine lines you can create. Do you see what I mean? It's really, really, really fine. So we do, starting from the inner corner of the eyes, I'll do a little thing like that. And then lift that up. So lift the brow up, the old Jack Nicholson bit. Bags under the eyes.
Nice use of Jack Nicholson at all times.
Yes. Oh, I always quote him. Yeah. No, I don't quote him, but I use, yeah. And as I say, that's the muscle that's pushed forward to make that frown. Then you want these little creases that come from the corner. And it's really important that they they emanate from the inner corner of that eye. You must get that right. It's if you understand why it is coming from there, then even if you're in a hurry, you find you can do it because you know where it's coming from. It's like it's a focal point, really.
Mhm.
Um, and then we do the other side. Again, those creases coming down, across the bridge of the nose. Um, Usually what I do is on the child, if they can handle it, I also take some very black lines from the corner of the inner corner and just flick them out to make that ultra dark. If they can handle it, they can't always. If they can, then it's really so good to do it with the brush as well. And that's where your creases would come from. Okay. So now it looks quite fierce. And then we have some crow's feet this side as well. Bags under the eyes. I sometimes really accentuate them and then let's have a slightly different shaped nostril. Maybe we could have uneven nostrils. We could have one big one here.
Face Paint Kate says that's a genius idea. And
Uh,
Bertha says this design is gorgeous. I love how you break it all down so easily. Your technique is awesome. Thank you for sharing.
oh, good. Thank you for coming along. And then, so now, because this mouth is going to be like this, we need a crease around here. You see, all right? Yeah.
Mhm.
And then that means that the smile line has got to go past that. So it's going to end up over here. So it's got to be like that. You see? And this is where we put the shading in, which I always, with my handy shader. There we go. Looks much better. And this one could be drooped down there. Something like that. And I mean, I could do some, jagged teeth, any sort of shaped teeth you want.
Mhm.
Maybe a long one. These are all broken off. Maybe some proper gaps. So I mean, if you've got time, you just fill in with black. If you haven't, don't worry, just leave it. They won't even notice. Yeah, so there we go, some teeth. We could have a bit more of a crease down there. We could have that sort of thing. What else? We can accentuate this. We could have a line across there as well. Really brings out that thick brow then. Yeah. What you can even do, I mean, you can leave the nose like that, the nostrils, or you can double them up. So I could do a crease here, a sort of bulge of the nose, and then maybe another one like that. This could have one as well. But you've got to make sure you put highlights across here in on the skin that's lifted up. This has got to have highlights as well. Right, so that's major monster marks. Remember, eyes, brow, bridge of the nose.
Kim loves the broken, jagged teeth.
Yeah, they're fun, aren't they?
They are.
Bags under the eyes, crow's feet. Then the nose. Accentuate the nostrils. Make sure you've got the flare around your nostrils, the smile lines, mouth, whatever shape you want to do, teeth, whatever. And then I think if you haven't got time, sometimes you just have to. Oh, well, let's give him some bushy brows as well, maybe. When you're doing bushy brows, always make sure they all break off in different directions. So that helps a bit.
Okay.
Especially coming towards the center. Okay, so there's some bushy brows. You can add those if you like. Right, so having done everything in black, or I could have done it in a very dark red or a dark brown, but you know, at speed when you're face painting, black is your low light, white is your highlight. If you're doing it proper arty, then you can use you know, I would start maybe with a light yellow, and then the most extreme highlight would be in white. So let's do a bit of yellow. I'll show you how it can be done. Again, it depends on time. So if you've got any questions, please do shove them through. I'm happy.
Kim
So,
said those are fabulous tips. No questions right now.
okay, so just putting yellow to lift up that the flare of the nostril. Well, I have tips like this every single week in my class and at the fan club.
Absolutely.
There we go, and some bags. The crow's feet in the corner, I've crisscrossed, so you end up with these kind of squares. So it's quite good to just highlight the top of each little square. That's where the light would hit it. Yeah. And then this can have some highlight. I would have a bit of highlight there. Put it there. Again, it's a monster. It doesn't have to be too accurate. That's the beauty of it. Right, so now I'm literally using the same yellow brush, going to swish in water and then into the white. Now I know it's looking at my white, but it doesn't
We've
take
got
long to get
about
rid of that.
18 minutes, just to warn you. Can
Okay.
I ask for the link to your classes, please? The name of it. It's Fam Club, right? UK? Famclub.co.uk?
No, go to Facade Academy
Uh-huh.
website, facadeacademy.co.uk, and there is the link to the fan club. Facadeacademy.co.uk, and then
Okay. I'll get everybody the link.
link to fan one. That's where the
There you
brushes are as well.
go. Okay.
So I'm just putting a tiny bit more highlight with the white, which is what I do if I have time. Boards are so difficult, aren't they?
Yep.
Mind. See, the tip of this brush is just so fine. All right, and let's do the teeth. Just putting a bit of highlight on the top surface, not right the way across, but just on bits of it. Right. That's probably it. Let's give this a bit of a lift. What can I have a lift? Yeah. So it's nicely wonky. That's what you want.
Mhm.
And if you again go on to my Facebook page, actually either Facade Academy or Juliet Eve, there's hundreds of different monsters there. This is just sort of one thought.
Uh,
Um,
uh, Sin Yun Lo asks, may I ask, are there any tips for more realistic teeth texture?
Texture.
For teeth, yeah.
Well, I mean, the texture, they're quite smooth. So if you want to make them shiny, you
Hmm.
know, as you can see, I've just by just adding a white at the very top, you make them shine. But I mean, texture, they don't really have they. I mean, they're quite smooth. They sometimes have little ridges along the bottom, but again, these are sort of fantasy teeth, so you can do them how you like.
Hmm.
Um, does that answer the question? Have I not understood it?
I think it understood the question. Just sort of how you draw, add texture to teeth. So if you're drawing a tooth, how do you add texture? I presume it's just highlighting, right?
Yeah, highlighting, I think, is the answer.
Right.
So for instance, on the green one I did here, now I did them, this was sort of the speedy version, which is just white. But if you, the first, because quite often, I'm painting over a color,
Hmm.
over the green or the red or whatever. So I'll often put that white on first and then do everything else. And then by the time I come back to it, it may have sunk in and lost its sort of whiteness.
Hmm.
So quite often that is the last thing I do just before they get off the seat, is to get another. This brush isn't the best one, actually. There's a nice brush. There we go. I'll just get my dot comma here. And then you can just put highlight only in the center. So imagine that, the tooth is round. And so the very center top is where you want to have the highlight. This bit's going to be darker. Okay, if this was a pointed tooth, right, going that way, the side is going to be more shadowed, and the top section here is going to be light. So on this one, for instance, I'll put just in the middle, and just in the middle of that one and this one. And then it gives it some natural depth. If I just lift that up, you might even see, hang on. Can you see how that little bit of highlight has just given it a bit more dimension? Yeah. At speed, I just literally pull down or lift up like that. So I just make a comma stroke, basically. And remember, they have to be planted where they've grown. So in fact, that one would have down here somewhere. And the ones that face downwards are planted in the top jaw. So be aware of that. Yeah, right. Any other questions?
Um, Not right now.
No? Okie dokie.
Okie dokie. Beagly
Let's
beagly.
put a bit of highlight just on the top of these.
Oh, wait a minute. There are more questions. Shoot, I missed it. Um, the green and yellow, Talon says the green and yellow one's more like the speedy version I would use for festivals and other Q focus. It's nice to have both versions. Thank you. So that wasn't
Yeah,
really a question. Okay.
that's all right. See, sometimes, if you're doing something at a festival, then you could just do the nose and take it under the cheeks. You don't have to do the mouth. Sometimes they might just want the mouth. So you can just do that. So that's quite fun. Um, and you can even use a kind of a creamy color and a brown sort of somewhere close to the skin color or whatever skin color they have.
Hmm.
Um, so it blends subtly in, so you don't even notice that it's them. So yeah, and I've got dozens of different sorts. Quite often I don't even do the scales, or as I say, it's lots of different ways to do. Oh, and I love on their actual nose. Quite often I just do that, again, it doesn't look much on a board, but if you just put a little highlight on the tip of the nose, it really brings it forward. So that's quite fun to do as well. Blend it in, which I can't do on this board. Yeah. Let's give him white eyes, just because I can. Now, what's the other things I have to think about? Um, you can add, obviously, add blood wherever you like. What else have we got here? Yeah, I think that's it. It's all about contouring, really. So just anyone who's done any makeup, then think about your contouring. I could have made that much darker.
Georgiana recommends your brushes. She'll be
Oh,
happy to.
thank you, Georgiana. Yeah, I'm rather pleased with them, I have to say. It's taken me about 6 years to get them all sorted, one way or another, as with broken legs and COVID and this, that, and the other. And finally, I got them. Oh, thrilled to bits. But yeah, they're all rounders. That's the thing. You can just do everything with them. Um, Now, admittedly, I probably have at least six of my desert islands, six of the number six and more of the number four. I have probably about, I don't know, 10, probably more than that, of the one strokes as well, the flats in my kit, my actual kit. Petal brushes, again, I've over the years I've gathered so many different sizes of the petal brush. Same with liners, dot comma. Yeah, I always have at least 3 dagger brushes on the go, so that I've got one that usually uses white for my whiskers, and other ones can be used for one stroke. Yeah.
Juliet, where would you add glitter if they want it, and what colors would you go for from Bixie in the UK?
Oh, yes. And I often do add glitter because I haven't got any here, have I? Have I? Um, But yes, I do. I do for you, particularly if it's scaly, because I always say, even the boys, I say, well, do you want to make these scales shiny like a dragon or like a whatever? So on the lighter parts, so I'd put a little dab a lot on the cheekbones, on the bridge of the nose, sorry, on the nose, and on the tops of the brow, and maybe there. So really a little, just, you don't want to put glitter where it's shaded. Otherwise that brings that forward, and you want the shading to go back deep. That could have been even darker. And once you get into the hang of shading, with a sponge, it's so quick because you've got all the colors there, and you just spin the sponge around, a bit of highlight here, a bit dark there, and swing it around. I put some white here. It's easily done. You just very quickly add a bit more. I could have put white on the highlights on the very highest part of the cheekbones. That would have lifted it. But that's where I'd put the glitter. Yeah,
Okay.
cheekbones, brow, nose. That's about it, really. Yeah. Anything
Awesome.
else? Any other
Nope,
questions?
I don't think so. Well done.
Okay.
I think that's terrific. So I think we've achieved greatness. So let's it's about 5 minutes till, so I think that's enough for now. Uh, Everybody looks happy. So thank you all for coming. Juliet, thank you. As always, this has been fantastic. We are having another webinar next week. We're going to be doing something fun with powder makeup designs with Kelly Burris next week on Monday. And we're also having a master class on Tuesday with Valerie Velix. There was a mess up with her internet, so we're actually having it Tuesday this week for $10. So if you guys want to see that about how to build your face painting business. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody, and I hope you have a great day.
You too. Thank you very much.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
Blake.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye, everyone.